right, so the first thing that we're going to look at and that we're going to examine for numerical distributions is we're going to look at shape. When we're looking at shape, we're going to be looking for three basic characteristics. Is the distribution symmetric or skewed? How many mounds appear? And are there any unusually large or small values present? All right, so to answer this first question, we are going to look at these different pictures at the bottom and talk about what we mean by symmetric or skewed. So we have four different pictures and we're going to have four different types of distribution. This first one here, notice that everything is exactly the same, right? This is an example of a uniform distribution. A uniform distribution is symmetric. Symmetric meaning if we folded this in half, if we took these two pieces and folded them together, we would get something that kind of lines up. They're mirror images of each other. If we split it down the middle, what we see going this way and what we see going that way from the middle are the same. So in a uniform distribution, the frequency of each distribution is evenly spread across the values in the variable. Okay. In bell-shaped symmetric distributions, the highest values or highest frequencies occur in the middle, and the frequencies tail off to the left and the right pretty evenly. Right? So again, this is an example of our uniform symmetric distribution. This is an example of a bell-shaped symmetric distribution. If our graphs are not symmetric, then we say that they are skewed. Right? And we are going to say that a graph is skewed right if the tail to the right of the peak is longer than the tail to the left of the peak, and it is skewed left if the tail to the left of the peak is longer than the tail to the right. So in this first picture here, we have a large tail to the right. So this one is skewed right. And then in our second one here, we have a long tail to the left. So this is skewed left. So when we're looking at shape, the first thing that we're going to think about is whether we are symmetric or skewed. So in this first example, what shape would we expect to see a histogram of the following data sets? So here we have four options to answer. Right? Are we left skewed, right skewed, uniform, or bell-shaped? Right, so if we think about college GPAs, right? If we're thinking about college GPAs, hopefully, for the most part, there are more high GPAs. Oops. So that P turned into an R. More high GPAs. Okay. So if we're thinking about this as a shape of a graph, right, we're going to have a few students down here at the bottom, but then we're going to have a large group of people over here. Right? So more high GPAs. This shape, since we have a tail over to the left, this is going to be a left skewed, or most likely is going to be a left skewed distribution. Right. A symmetric group of ACT scores. Here, we're going to say that most of the students are somewhere in the middle, right? So most of them are average or somewhere in the middle. That means if we were to draw a picture in this case, right, we would end up with something that looks more like that, right? This is more bell-shaped since we have a tail on both ends and our highest frequency, right, are in the middle. Last digit of social security numbers, right? Chances are, right, if we were to look at that data, it would be pretty evenly spread out, right? If it's pretty evenly spread out, then we are thinking of a uniform distribution. Right, income, we're going to guess that there is going to be less people with high income. Right? So in this case, it's going to be kind of the opposite of our top picture here. Right? We're going to have more of our data on the lower end and less on the higher end. Right? So now we have a tail to the right. So this is going to most likely be right skewed. Right, there's a couple of questions in your homework that are kind of similar. Think about where your data is going to lie. Is it going to be in the middle? Is it going to be pretty even? Or are we going to have more high values or more low values, meaning it's going to be skewed in one direction?